All right, something pretty special here today, ladies and gentlemen. I have here the Asus Zenbook S14. Why is it special? Well, it's running the brand new Intel Lunar Lake processor, the Core Ultra 7 258V. Now, this is a radical change, radical departure for Intel as far as this architecture is concerned. They went back to the drawing board, so to speak, and came up with this new design. Now, this is different from anything they did in the past. Instead of going with more cores, they actually reduced the amount of cores. So with this one, we have 4 performance cores, 4 efficiency cores for a total of 8. The previous generation, the Core Ultra 7 155H, had the 16 cores. We all know that very well. We've seen it many times on this channel. But where this one is more efficient and more battery life is what they sought out. And for the most part, they actually achieved it. I'm seeing really, really good battery life on this. This is running cool and quiet for the most part when you're doing everyday tasks. We'll get into the thermals later on. But in addition to having great battery life, we're seeing better single core performance and we're seeing less multi-core. But that's to be expected, right? We're going from 16 cores to 8 cores. So the overall scheme of things, it's actually really good. And not only that, it's put into a laptop that looks simply stunning. The aesthetics here are off the charts. We got the Ceraluminum in this beautiful Scandinavian white. You could also get it in that beautiful Zumaya gray. So this is a lot to talk about here in terms of this review. We'll go over the chipset, we'll go over the performance, we'll go over the battery numbers. This has got a gorgeous OLED display, 3K, 120 hertz, so we'll get into that and more. And there's a lot to love about this ultra portable, and we're gonna find out why I think this is one of the best ultra portables so far here in 2024. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is the brand new Intel Lunar Lake inside this Asus Zenbook S14. The review is coming up. Okay, before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Asus, I'm not being sponsored by Asus. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Asus is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit is on loan from Asus, and once this review is done, I'll be sending it back. You could pick up the Zenbook S14 over at Best Buy. It comes in at $1399.99. That gets you the Core Ultra 7, the 16 gigabytes of memory, the 1 terabyte of storage in the Zumaya gray. It is, of course, the Ultra 7 258V. And, of course, you can go over to Asus website. That is $1499.99. 32 gigabytes of RAM, a terabyte of storage. That's the one I have with my review unit. Now, we saw the Ceraluminum when I reviewed the 16-inch version running the AMD Ryzen AI processor, the Strix Point. For those that didn't see the review, I'll drop a link in the description below for you to check it out. But physically, they're very similar, just, of course, a smaller form factor here with the S14. But they both have that Ceraluminum, and they're both here shown with the Scandinavian white. I love the build and the overall aesthetics of these units. Incidentally, they did show a version running the Core Ultra 9 Lunar Lake processor Series 2 at IFA at Berlin, and I got a chance to look at it over there, but they don't have any plans to release it just yet, at least here for the US or North America. But if that should change, I will let you know if I acquire that information. So with just the unit alone, 1.193 kilograms, and that is 2 pounds, 10.1 ounces. Not too bad. Now, let's put it back into kilograms, and let's get a measurement of the power charger and the laptop itself. That brings it to 1.41 kilograms, and that is 3 pounds, 1.7 ounces, all in. A pretty portable package to take with you on the go. Okay, let's check out the port selection, and on the left side you get an HDMI 2.1 port, 2 USB Type-C Thunderbolt 4 ports that are full function, and a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack. And on the right side is a USB Type-A port to round out the ports. The one port that I would say is missing here is, of course, a micro SD card reader or full-size SD card reader like you get on the bigger sibling, the Asus Zenbook S16 that we looked at running that Strix Point processor. And I would say overall a pretty good port selection. One little nitpick though, I'd like to see those 2 USB Type-C Thunderbolt 4 ports split up, one on each side, making it a little bit more convenient. But that's just me. But overall, pretty decent port selection here. Now, as far as durability, this does have a military standard A10H rating, meaning it's designed to ensure reliability over time to take a licking and keep on ticking. All right, let's talk about the display. And we've seen this display before. It's the Lumina display. It's an OLED display, this time 14 inches, 2880 by 1800, 120 hertz refresh rate. And that means you're looking at a really nice panel overall. When it comes to the color gamut, excellent coverage here. When it comes to the color accuracy, it is spot on. So if you're doing content creation in Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing, color grading, stuff like that, this is an excellent panel to do those tasks. And when it comes to screen brightness, you're looking at 352 nits in standard dynamic range and can peak as high as 500 nits when you're watching HDR content. And speaking of which, watching HDR in Netflix, Amazon, YouTube has been spectacular on this display. Now, a few things to note about this display. It's 120 hertz refresh rate, and that means you're going to get a very smooth, very fluid experience, whether you're navigating the OS with your finger or just scrolling around. It will be a lot better, especially when you're doing some light gaming and stuff like that. Having the high refresh rate will give you a better experience. And it's a really responsive touch screen here as far as navigating the OS with your finger. Pinch to zoom really comes in handy, especially in Photoshop and stuff like that. That works really well. And it also has pen support. Now, it uses the Microsoft Pen Protocol 2.0, and I don't have the Asus Pen 2.0 that they offer, but I was able to use the HP Tilt Pen that I have here in the studio, which uses the same technology, and it worked perfectly fine. Taking notes, sketching out artwork, diagrams, and the like is an option here on this clamshell notebook. Now, there are a few things you need to know about an OLED display. You just have to be aware of. There's something called screen burn-in that might happen down the road. That's where you leave a static image long enough where it will burn into the display and leave a permanent mark there. I don't have that experience with this or any other Asus laptop. They have something in their settings called the Asus OLED Care that allows certain technology to come into effect when you're not using it that will preserve the display and all the things that it does and so forth. And so it does a pretty good job on that. And the other thing you need to be aware of with an OLED display is the type of technology they're using. It's called PWM, or pulse width modulation, or screen flickering, basically in layman's terms. And that basically will mean that some people are sensitive to that, may get some headaches from it and so forth. I'm not sensitive to PWM, but I know a lot of people are. So I wanted to bring that up. And I detected it below 30% or so screen brightness. So if you keep it above that, you should be fine. So this is the camera on the brand new Asus Zenbook S14 running the Lunar Lake processor, the Core Ultra 7 258V, the Series 2, of course, and this is a 1080p camera. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? This is an IR camera. That means you can log in with face recognition with Windows Hello. And of course, this does have all the studio effects. It does have the NPU, of course, Copilot plus PC, I guess. And so this will be handled by the NPU. So you could do all the studio effects. We've seen it a million times, background blur, the auto framing, all that stuff. So that's all here. And of course, I think it's pretty good. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, when it comes to the keyboard, you're looking at chiclet style keys, 1.1 millimeters of key travel. Yes, a little bit on the shallow side, but I felt it very comfortable for typing out long documents, emails, and the like. And the week plus that I've been using it has been very good for typing out those type of tasks and really worked very well. Never felt like my fingers were going to bottom out. So pretty good. And that has a really strong multi-stage backlight. And a lot of times when you get light keys with a white LED backlight, it's hard to see. That's not the case with this because they make it really bright. They give you a nice stage that really gives you that brightness. And it's easy to see in a dark room or a dimly lit cabin, say on an airplane. So I think you'll have no issues getting work done in that kind of environment. And just like its bigger sibling, the Zenbook S16 that we reviewed, this also has a pretty nicely sized touchpad, spacious, responsive, everything you need to do for scrolling, gestures, everything worked very well. It also has gesture control that allows you to control screen brightness and system volume. Okay, let's take a peek at the internals here. And as you can see, a 72 watt-hour battery. Will get into the really great battery life later on. That's a little bit of a spoiler, but of course, it has been pretty good. Now, 2 fans for cooling. We'll get into the thermal performance later on. Now, as far as the SSD, it's a 1 terabyte Western Digital SSD included with my review unit. And as you can see, very good reads and writes. Certainly fast enough what you need this laptop to do. And I love the fact that if you need more storage, you can expand it out yourself, saving some money in the process. You cannot do that with something like a MacBook Air. Now, my review unit has 32 gigabytes of LP DDR5X RAM running at 8553 megatransfers per second. That's really fast. And it is soldered in, which is not a surprise, of course, here in 2024, not upgradable by the user. Now, when it comes to the wireless, you're looking at a Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4 combo card soldered into the motherboard, not upgradable by the user, but I like the fact that it is Wi-Fi 7, making it more future-proof. And of course, the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth have been working flawlessly. I have seen no issues with either one. Now, judging by the amount of views I got on the review on the UX5406, the one running the Meteor Lake last year, the Zenbook 14 OLED, that is a very different processor, the Core Ultra 7 155H. A key difference is going to be the number of cores. That one had 16 cores, and this one has 8 cores. They shed a lot of the cores, the hyper-threading, because they wanted this to be more power efficient, and they wanted more longevity when it comes to battery life. And for the most part, they pretty much achieved that, but at the cost of multi-core performance. It's not going to be quite as good. Having less cores means you're going to get less multi-core. It makes sense, right? But we are seeing an improvement in single core. Let's take a look at it. So let's take a look at Geekbench 6, and right off the bat, you're going to see multi-core performance down nearly 16%, 15.8% to be exact, and single core, on the other hand, is up 9.4%. So we're seeing some pretty interesting results with this Geekbench 6. And when I ran the Cinebench 2024, we're seeing some pretty interesting results here. We're seeing a better single core performance, 115, over the Meteor Lake 99. That's a 16.2% increase year over year. But we are seeing an 11.4% decrease year over year when it comes to the multi-core, and that makes sense, 8 cores as opposed to the 16 cores we found on last year's model. But where I am seeing a big increase is in the 3D Mark score here in terms of the graphics. The Intel Arc Graphics 140 that we now find has a 28.6% better time SPI score year over the Intel Arc we found on Meteor Lake. That is a nice improvement year over year. There's no doubt about it. And having improved graphics means you're going to have a little bit better gaming experience. Now, I wouldn't characterize this as a gaming laptop per se. I think you know that. But playing the occasional game here and there, depending on the settings, means you'll get some pretty playable frame rates. As we can see, some of the more popular titles have improved frame rate per second year over year. So I'm liking what I'm seeing here with this new improved Intel Arc graphics here for 2024. And I'm seeing an improvement in things like video editing. When I ran the Puget Bench DaVinci Resolve benchmark, it got an overall score of 2089. That's a big improvement over the Meteor Lake processor that I reviewed last year on a number of laptops. So pretty nice improvement when it comes to things like video editing. And when I ran the time SPI stress test to see if this will thermal throttle under heavy load, good news here, it got a passing score of 99.1%, meaning it detected virtually no thermal throttling under load. And that's a good thing. All right, let's check out the surface temperatures here. And you'll notice that there's that grill above the keyboard below the display. And that's where you're going to get a lot of the airflow to help dissipate some of the heat. So you'll notice it get around 50 degrees or so Celsius, and that's normal. And you'll notice those micro perforations on there to help with that airflow. That's been working out pretty well. On the other side, there are a few hot spots here and there reaching about 54.1 or so degrees Celsius, and that's, of course, heating up when you're pushing this under heavy load, but when you're doing everyday tasks, the surface temperatures remain relatively cool, and that's been pretty good. And as far as fan noise is concerned, the only time I really noticed it getting really loud was when I was running the Cinebench 2024, so all the cores were pushed to their limits, and it got nearly 60 decibels, which was quite noticeable. But for the most part, when doing everyday tasks, Microsoft Office, email, web browsing, the fans hardly kicked on and remained relatively quiet throughout. And that's been pretty good with this laptop. But the biggest improvement I'm seeing year over year is battery life. When I ran the PC Mark X Modern Office test, I got 20 hours and 50 minutes. And that's a 47.4% improvement year over the Zenbook 14 UX3405. I got 18 hours and 42 minutes on the video playback. That's nearly 20% longer than last year's model. And that's a good thing here. So really seeing great longevity. But the biggest improvement has got to be the gaming test, 2 hours and 13 minutes. That's almost 130% better than last year. So a massive improvement year over year between Meteor Lake to Lunar Lake. Lunar Lake is showing good longevity in terms of the battery life. And when it comes to charging, they include a 65-watt USB Type-C charger. It's pretty compact, charges the laptop pretty fast, and it's pretty portable, so it won't weigh you down in your bag. Now, when it comes to the audio, we're looking at Harman Kardon premium quad speakers, 4 of them, obviously, and it also has Dolby Atmos. That's going to help with the spatial audio. They're pretty good. Now, we're going to compare it to a laptop I'm about to review, and that should be dropping any day now, and that's, of course, the HP OmniBook Ultra running the brand new Strix Point processor from AMD, so one of the competitors from a different processor point of view. But let's see how the speakers compare, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, let's give them a listen. Okay, let's bring it all home. The Asus Zenbook S14 running the brand new Lunar Lake processor brings a lot to the table. One of my favorite laptops here for 2024, and for good reason. We got a really stunning design with the Ceraluminum in that Scandinavian white. It also comes in that brilliant Zumaya gray. I'm really liking the color schemes here. 3K 120 hertz OLED display, 14-inch touchscreen option here with pen support. It's got improved single-core performance over Meteor Lake. It's got better integrated graphics. The Intel Arc 140V graphics are better than the Intel Arc graphics from last year. It's something we'd like to see. Excellent keyboard and touchpad, a very good 1080p webcam. It's got a pretty good port selection. It runs cool and quiet when doing everyday tasks. That's exactly what we want to see. Outstanding battery life overall, an improvement over the Meteor Lake, and it's got really high quality speakers. But of course, there are some negatives here. The RAM is not upgradable, but that's pretty much par for the course here in 2024. No haptic touchpad here like you get on, say, the MacBook Air, stuff like that. Of course, other laptops are using haptic touchpads. We don't get that here. Display is on the glossy side. The fan noise is noticeable under heavy load, but when you're using this for most tasks, most everyday tasks, the fan noise was not an issue. In fact, it's remained relatively silent. Less multi-core performance, which is expected here. It has got 8 cores as opposed to the 16 cores we had last year, so it's half. So yes, we are seeing less multi-core performance, but the overall scheme of things, it's not a terrible thing because everything else is improved, such as better battery life, better cooling, and all that stuff. I think it's overall a better, more efficient laptop in the grand scheme of things. There's no SD card reader like you get on its bigger sibling, the S16, but of course, not a huge deal. You could always use an adapter or a dongle. But overall, I think they did a really great job here getting the things they wanted to get done. Better efficiency, better battery life, better single core performance, and they've really come through here. And you won't have any of the compatibility issues you might have on, say, the Qualcomm Snapdragon X series of processors, and you're seeing an overall improvement over Meteor Lake. And I think the overall stunning design of the S14 makes this one of the best ultra portable laptops here for 2024, and I highly recommend it. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. And don't forget to check out my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.